I'll be here with you. Yeah, I'm going to be here with you. I'm going live. You want to come with me?
Yes.
Okay with me? Cool, cool. All right, we're going to try this again. I don't want to do that.
You made a Christmas tree.
I made a Christmas tree?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I did. I want to do this one. Say what? I do not know. Got it. All right. I'm going through Zoom now. I don't know what YouTube's problem is. If I'm even live. I'm talking to the audience. Cool, cool. I'm glad you see it, Mandy. All right, I think I'm talking to people. I'm not sure, so I'm gonna wait till I see. I'm streaming. I'm gonna wait till I see other people. Streaming. It's not gonna work. Hello, hello. Jeez, it's too much lights. All right, we're gonna.
8:36.
It's 8:36.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is 8:36 early.
Almost 7.
It's almost 7. No, it's past 7. It's almost 9.
No, so it's not. Oh,
Yes, it
that's
is.
it 7.
8:36.
Yeah.
Oh, you're saying it's almost 8:37?
No, it's almost 9.
Okay, no problem. I could have to do this live on a different day. Participant 1. It's your boy. It's ridiculous. 2. Let's see what this looks like. There. Okay. We can hear and see you on YouTube. Oh, okay. Okay, hold on. Let me turn my camera on. I just found out what was going on. Tap to speak. Mic is unmuted. Can you guys hear me? There's nothing here. It's coming. Okay. Video stopped. Mic is unmuted. All right. I'm hoping you guys can see me now. Let me know if you can see me. We back. Okay, Chiboge says we're back. Okay, I'll take your word for it because I do not know what's going on. I want to apologize for that. Yep, okay, cool. Say. I owe you guys a drink of wine. I almost feel scared to go get up and grab it. So we can hear you now. All right. Can't see you though. All right. Oh, this backlog. Okay, hold on. I'm coming. You know what? I gotta open the bottle, so I'm not even gonna take the risk. Okay, great. We can see you now. Okay, awesome. Hey, I want to thank you guys, of course, for your patience, first and foremost. I want to see this double of myself. How do I get rid of that? So yeah, I want to thank you guys for your patience. I don't know why that keeps happening. I don't know if I need to upgrade something in my own system or fix something. See you, channel. Okay, appreciate it. Used cars. Yes, you are, Namdi. Yes, you are. So I don't know if there's something I need to fix on my own end. I've been looking into it. Both of my brothers do YouTube. They say it happens to them, but I think mine's the most frequent. So there's something that I personally need to fix. But either way, we are back. Thank you very much for your patience. So if somebody, the technology is censoring you, man, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, stuff we talk about, yeah, I would not be surprised at all. Anti, we're too black for YouTube. Get this thing out of here. So yeah, all right. So there was some. I was in the middle of something. Oh yeah, you're all full, right? So for those catching for the first time, I'm explaining the all full, and I'm going to use it to go into the topic of Onwa Aja Ana, the new moon that we're in, right? So you come into the world, you have an all full. Now the all full is a space within reality or a space within creation that you have dominion over, you have authority over, or more or less you have God's trust over. You have the universe's trust to hold or to act within, that kind of thing. So that space then comes with its own set of principles that are also known as all four. Those rules that you have to follow. Now, what is very interesting is that I always compare the all four to the all. So those who are familiar with the Kemetic tradition, You'll know about the Ankh, and you'll know about the 48 laws of Ma'at, where you're saying a list of negations. I have not done this. I have not done that. I've not that type of thing. It is the exact same tradition with y'all, so no different at all. I'm also willing to believe that Ankh is probably not pronounced Ankh, right? And the reason I say that is because with a lot of the Kemetic texts, or with Kemetic text, they can only catch the consonants. So every vowel is a guess. They're guessing what the vowels are, right? So, and for some reason, anyways, that's another thing. But that type of thing. So they're very connected, very similar things. So everybody has one of those. And when you are walking within your all, you're walking with justice, your righteousness, truth, honor, so on and so forth. Now, the reason it is connected to this moon is because this is Onwa Aja Ana, so the sands of the earth. And the earth itself is an all. Ana is an all. And when you look at whether you look at the Ankh and the fact that it's a womb, or if you look at the all, the fact that it's also not only a womb, but it's also fashioned some of them are very intricate. So it's fashioned to very clearly spell out that this is a woman that we're talking about. It's a woman, right? And that woman we're talking about is Nij, who resurrected as Ana, and so forth. So this is your right of correction in the world, right? The thing that you have that you, okay, I have let's say within your all four, you are supposed to be a leader, right? There are going to be certain principles within that thing that you have to follow. And if you don't follow them, that ability to lead will be taken from you. It's not yours. Any gift that you have in this world is not your own. It is, you're a custodian. So for example, if I have a babysitter that's watching over my son, I give him or her the remote. I'm not giving them the remote because I want them to watch TV. I'm giving them the remote. I mean, that's part of it too. I'm also giving them the remote to serve my child. You understand? So a lot of us come into the world with gifts and abilities and talents, or things that are extraordinary about us. All of these things are given to us the way you would hand a janitor a pair of keys, the way you would give a babysitter a remote, that type of thing. It's for you to serve the rest of the world. You understand? So that's first and foremost, that's one of the things going to be powerful. Now, a lot of people, you're not going to come off top knowing exactly what your rules are, right? A great deal of it is found out through trial and error. A great deal of it is found out through seeing what resonates with you as far as your values, right? Taking a piece of paper and writing down what your values are as a person and sticking to them. That as you do things, you'll notice every time I do this, that happens. Every time I lie, this thing happens. Every time I do this, that kind of thing. You can then add on to it, so on and so forth, right? So it is a trial and error thing. It is a thing that you can find out on your own. And then also there's a pretty universal understanding of righteous behavior, righteous accord with each other and with the universe and so forth. That's what we mean with alignment. Yes, I am back. Can you prop? Okay. Can I prop up the phone to be horizontal? I don't want it to be all up in my face, all weird. I don't all up my nose and all that. So, does this sound better or does it sound the same? If it sounds the same, I'm flipping it back up. Let me know if it sounds better. Is that a Biggie shirt? Yes, Biggie Smalls. Yes, it is. Place phone on landscape, the mic. Okay, yeah. Okay, it's all right. I'm assuming this probably sounds better then. I feel awkward bending down like this or whatever. I have no reason to be this primitive. I'm not even old. But all right, yeah. Sounds a little off. Sounds okay. Okay, let me know if it's sounding better, y'all. Let me know if it's sounding better. Sounds better. Okay, cool. All right, we're gonna continue. So Onwa Aja Ana is acknowledging the earth, right? But it's not just acknowledging the earth, it is acknowledging soil. Now, why is it Biggie's Igbo for sure? Biggie looks really Yoruba. I don't honestly, I think Biggie looks very, very Yoruba. I think Biggie Smalls and Bobby Shmurda look like the same person. And I feel like I'm the first person to notice. If you make Biggie Smalls skinny, you'll turn into Bobby Shmurda. They both look very Yoruba. And it's fine. I feel like it keeps making you quieter. We'll just try to manage. One day I'll get you that this, but I'm just going to continue butting my head against the wall until the wall opens, right? Some parts are loud and others are not. Yeah, I think that I'm getting that. That's the impression I'm getting. I don't know why. Give me just a second. Maybe if I did this. But yeah, we'll claim Biggie anyways. He's evil for sure. I'll take it. But anyways, yeah. So Aja, now what is particularly special about Aja? One, Aja is an all-fall because the Earth is an all-fall. So if you're holding your all-fall, the physical all-fall that is made to represent that pact you have with the universe, right? There will room echo. I don't know why it would be echoing. Us Y4 suck at modern tech. Yo, I'll take it, man. Whatever. I see that Amadioha is referred to as the right hand of Chukwu, yes. However, I was taught that Ikenga represents the right hand of the Chi. Can you explain the concept? So, used cars, job done. I'm going to advise you to watch the video Amadioha explained. I think it's very worth it. It is long. There's too much light in it. Oh, I think that's better. That's way better. Okay. So I don't hear that, but all right, cool. All right, so I'm gonna advise you to watch the video Amadioha explained, but I'll give you the brief of it. Now, in Igbo cosmology, everything there's a basic formula to the universe and it repeats itself on different levels. So listen to what you said, right? You said that the Ikenga is the right hand of the Chi. You understand? Chukwu is Chi Uku, just the grand Chi, the big Chi, the supreme Chi. However you want to put it. It's Chi on a universal level, the way I have Chi on an individual level, right? So if there's a universal Chi, then and I have a personal Chi, and my personal Chi gives me this thing called an Ikenga. Then the universal Chi is going to have its own Ikenga, right? It's going to have the thing that it uses to act in the world. Now remember, Chukwu is not a part of our universe. Chukwu is distant. It's not a part of our universe. But Chukwu can act in our universe through its Ikenga, which is Amadioha. Now, if you remember the symbology for both the Ikenga and Amadioha, is both the ram. They're both the ram, right? Another thing that ties them together is the number 3. I'm an Afro. Somebody had mentioned that they were also Afro. I think Chumuge said that he was Afro. I was born on the 3rd day, right? So that's my house. Now, in the creation or the reorganizing of the universe, Chukwu split the world in 4 parts, aka Uria, Afon, and 4. And he placed the different Amara in their different houses. So Amadioha and Ana, which is sky and earth, Igwe and Ana are in the 3rd house, right? The 3rd house is also the life creating house, where life is created on Afo. That's where life is created. Afo. Stomach is, in Igbo, Afo is also stomach, but the inflection is different. So Amadioha is the Ikenga of Chukwu, the way your Ikenga is the way your Ikenga is your Chi's Ikenga, is your Chi's hand in action. So that's more or less the explanation for that. One name, I have a linguistic question. What does the Igbo name Ekwebi mean? Ekwe is allow, like will, like when you will something, right? Ekwebi, to be honest, it looks like it was shortened from something like longer. I'm not a linguist, so I'm not the person to ask. I would have to take time to really think about the word, but it looks like a shortened thing because it's Ekwebi. Ekwebi. So whatever Ekwe is, like Ekwe lives. You understand? But I'm having a hard, or like maybe my will lives, or what I will live, something like that. Unless it was shortened from something else. Maybe it was Ekwensubi, you know, because a lot of people took the Ekwensus out of their name in pretty recent time. Now, I'm not going to tell you your family history, so I don't know if that's what happened. But a lot of people took that out of their name in modern times. So maybe that's what that means. It's hard for me to say. I would ask your people. I would ask your parents, if possible, relatives as possible, that kind of thing, because there's usually history to it. Like my last name is Alfather. But a lot of the Alfather ones have shortened their name to Alfather or Alfather if you're from Anambra or Enugu, I think also the L's. So a lot of Alfathers have the same name as me, but I'm the only Alfather one that I'm like my family was the only Alfather one that I know because we kept them one. You understand? So who knows? Abu Nwa Fall Kara, I know now. I already know. Let's see here. How can we figure out which house we're in? There's a link. I'm gonna post a link. Equals. Is it equal? Okay, yeah. I'm gonna post a link to that allows you to figure out what house you're in soon. I kind of want to get through the information I want to get through first. Once I post that link, you can take a look there and see what house you were born in. It points you back to the market day that you were born. But your house is the market day that you were born. That kind of thing. It's one of your names. It's your universal language. A whole bunch of different things to it. Cool, 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 cool. Okay, so anyways, yeah. So Aja is an enfant, right? So you can get the physical enfant made. But that physical enfant is tied to the earth. It's the earth itself that's what's being represented. So the earth is Aja. You'll see a lot in the community where people, when they're swearing, they'll pick up sand and they say, "I swear," da 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 da, and they'll put it down. I feel like in America, when people say things like "put it on the land," "swear on your mother's grave," all these different terms that go back to swearing on soil, I somehow think that that's connected to that original concept. Could be wrong. You understand? That kind of thing. So, all right, cool. What type of astrology is this? We are talking about Udinani. Udinani is Igbo cosmology. So it's cosmology from the Igbo perspective. Welcome. It sounds like you're new. Subscribe and check out the videos that I have. I think if you're already interested in astrology or anything of that nature, or general cosmology, you'll be interested in what we're going to talk about. So today we're talking about Onwa Aja Ana, right? The moon of the earth moon, or the specifically the sands. So what makes sand so particularly special, right? There's this emphasis in Igbo cosmology in reminding us that we are sand. We were created from the earth, or we are earth beings. We are extensions of the earth physically, the way my nails or maybe my hair is an extension of me. There's no real difference between those two things. And the way we come into reality as sand or as earth, the trees, every single thing in creation, every physical thing in creation comes into reality as earth. The sands are also known as Ogodo, right? So if you've listened to a few of my videos, I spoke about Udibe, which is the concept of the cosmic spider that is reweaving the cloth on top of the universal mother, Niche, who passed away in the explosion. I think you're all familiar with her and that kind of thing, right? So that is that concept on a cosmic level. Now that cloth that Udibe is weaving can be seen in the stars. That's what we're seeing when we see that cloth is the stars, right? The stars, the galaxy, the universe. It's interesting too, because our ancestors said that Udide weaves in a spiral, and the shape of Nechuku and one of the shapes of Anna is the spiral, right? If you look at Uli, which is a form of decorative writing that Insibidi derives from, Uli uses the spiral to say the word Eke. It also uses it to say the term Akaraka, which are the etchings on your hand, right? So earlier I spoke about how before coming into the world, you make a pact with creation, a pact with the universe. That universe is going to put on your body clues as to what that is, or what that pact is, or who you are, what you're supposed to be. And one of the places that it's put is in your hands, right? That kind of thing. So anyways, the spiral. So it reweaves the thing in a spiral, and if you look into the stars are all representative of that cloth that is being rewoven, known as Ogodone Chuku. Now, some people will say that we live on top of the cloth. I've heard that said before. Some people will say that we're all interwoven with it. I go into the science of the cloth itself in my next video, which is Itraja. It's a video on science. The reason it was important to go into it was because the strings of that cloth can also be seen as canals or pathways, or think like tubes. The best way to think of it is like blood vessels that connect you to Obi, the heart of Chuku, Obi Chuku. You understand? So it connects this giant organism back to the heart, right? And those are strings that are being spoken of. So Aja Ana, now, when you look at sand is broken into little particles, little pieces, that kind of thing like that. Our ancestors said that so as the sand is, so is the sky, right? So the earth is a microcosm of the universe, and the stars are as infinite as the sands are infinite, and they are one in the same thing. They are the exact same thing. So all things are Aja Ana. Everything is created from Aja Ana, the sands, whether it be on a small scale with a little grain of sand, on a large scale as a sun, a star, a galaxy, so on and so forth. So when we speak about Aja Ana, it is an acknowledgement of the oneness between what is living, or not what is living, but between us and the rest of creation. It is an acknowledgement not to, or is a means of not forgetting the fact that we are the exact same thing as nature. There's no distinction between us and nature. You understand? One of the reasons why in a lot of older cosmological systems, you go to the same place to do spirituality that you use to go get medicine, is because there's the acknowledgement that you are a part of the earth. And if I am a part of the earth, I can tinker with myself or use parts of the earth to heal me, so on and so forth. There are other belief systems that kind of imagine human beings being a very separate thing from the earth. And that the earth is an unnatural part of us, or that maybe this body is something we shed and we pass, and so on and so forth. And you'll notice in those traditions, spirituality and medicine aren't as tightly fused. Why? Because you have to acknowledge that I have to acknowledge that there's something between me and that tree that are similar before I can go to that tree for healing. Before I can go to that tree and say, okay, these leaves will heal this part of my body. These roots will do this X, Y, Z to me, so on and so forth. I have to acknowledge that we're one and the same. Now, a lot of that thinking, which is more popular in like Eurasian systems, right? So a lot of that thinking has been supplanted with what we now call contemporary science. Contemporary science says, no, human beings are not something distinct within nature, and so forth. We are just another part of nature. We're an extension of nature. And therefore, a lot of the things we acknowledge about ourselves internally, we can see on the outside, so on and so forth, right? So hold on. Are there any Igbo stories of legends, mythical heroes that have done great feats of heroism? Yes. Also, would you want some type of media about them? I mean, if you have, go ahead and send. One of the nicest things I get from a lot of you guys are like different like articles and books and things like that. So that's phenomenal. So if you have, send. There are many stories, many stories about heroes and so on and so forth. They're usually not the Abara. So what's really interesting about Igbo cosmology is that the Abara sometimes play a back seat a lot of the time, right? The emphasis is not on the Abara. It's more so on the chief. So the hero stories are usually individuals or just regular people, that kind of thing. Well, not regular people, like special people, but that kind of thing. They're humans, right? And one of the stories that comes to mind immediately is the story of Ojadili, right? So the story of Ojadili is very interesting because Ojadili was the best wrestler in the world, right? So he went from village to village, pinning every single person you can find. There was nobody who could compete with them. There was nobody who can fight them. Eri is one of the legends. Yes, that's a good one too. So nobody can defeat Ojadili in wrestling. So Ojadili got extremely bored and said, you know what? I've defeated everybody and I'm a world of people. Let me go see if they can beat me and I'll have more. So there's a short version of this story and there's a long version. So I'll just give you the short one, but the long one is told over multiple. It's an epic. What is the? Oh yeah, it's an epic, and it's told over multiple days to children, that kind of thing. And so Ojadili ends up going into the world of spirits, and he wrestles one, another one appears. He wrestles another one appears, so on and so forth. It said that when he got there, he met it's told two different ways. So one version will say that he fought 7 different spirits. 7 spirits came to fight him. Another one will say that he fought a spirit with 7 heads, right? And this was like the ultimate, the strongest one in the Alam. So Ojadili ends up defeating them. And then there's 2 more endings. In one version, once he defeats them, another challenge appears. And another challenge appears, and he never leaves Alam again, right? In another version, once another set appeared, he tries to escape. But as he's escaping, the one of the spirits takes their hand and tries to grab him, and he pulls away quickly. So it leaves a cut down his back. And that's the reason why the human back is separated. When you see people's back, they have a part in the middle. That's the origin of the part in the middle of people's back. So that's one of the stories. That would make a sweet educational video game. Yeah, no, I'm telling you, the long version is crazy. The long version, he has like a sidekick. The sidekick is like he's lazy. He plays the flutes, which back then it was not seen as like manly to be into the arts, right? And the arts were a space for women. Music had exceptions, but it was kind of used to emphasize that he was like not a manly guy. So he plays flutes. He was lazy. and things like that. And so when he goes into the world of spirits, he's the only person. Or when Ojadili goes, he's the only person that wants to go with him, and they go through the adventures and they're together and stuff like that. Now the issue is, I haven't heard the long version before. I've only heard the short version. I've heard of the long version. Like I have a resource on the library, so that references that long version. It gives me little insights, things like that. But I need to hear the actual one. So hopefully I can get to an elder before the story is lost. Shang-Chi reminds me of the story of Ojadili. Shang-Chi beat everyone with the 10 rings and goes to another realm and fights a woman there. Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. That'd be very, very interesting to see. The Bini also have an identical story called Jeremy. And the reason I know about it is because Victor Wildfall, he's a musician, that sung a song about it. And in their version, it's a devil with 7 heads. And Ojadili jumps in they call it the underworld in theirs. He jumps into the underworld and he never returns, because the moral of the story is that if you're always looking for the next big challenge, the next big, it never ends. It's a never-ending journey, right? Now, in the evil one, there's a quote that Ojadili says that's very important. It's where one of the Ilu come from, one of the proverbs in Igbo cosmology or in Igbo culture, which is, so long as my Ikenga is alive, or so long as my Ikenga is awake, I can wrestle in the world of spirits. Now, this is what Ojadili tells the village people when they tell them that nobody's ever returned from the world of spirits, that kind of thing. So he says, as long as my Ikenga is alive, I can wrestle in the world of spirits, which is very important to remember, right? So one of the reasons it's important to remember is because in a lot of, a lot of times in Udinani, in the modern times and things like that, there's this people feel beholden to spirits, right? There's a sense that they are stronger or more superior to, that kind of thing, or, oh, somebody is doing X, Y, Z to you, or somebody buried your destiny, yada, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden you start getting scared. Oh no, somebody's doing something spiritual to me. It's more powerful than I am, so on and so forth. Now, earlier I spoke of the concept of Alfono, right? Now, our ancestors have a term or an ilu that says Alfokansi. Alfokansi. You understand? And then another one that says the spirits do not harm the innocent, or the spirits cannot harm the innocent. Now, what does that all mean? What does that all tie together? No matter what somebody's trying to do to you, if you are keeping your all fault, you have the highest form of protection. So there's nothing anybody can ever do to you, ever, period. As long as you're keeping to your all fault, you're impervious, you're good to go. If you're going to pass, it is the time that God designed for you to pass. If you're going to pass, it is the time that your more or your chi agreed that this is the time we're going to go. Anything, so on and so forth. But as long as you're keeping your all fault, you're impervious. That's not going to happen to you. And I don't see that part get emphasized enough. Now, if you're keeping your all, your Ikenga is active. So he's saying, Ojadili is saying the same thing, that kind of thing. Our ancestors believed that a man's chi can bring them into the world to be an artist, since they thought arts were for women. Yeah, absolutely. Nigerians, I'm trying to remember how to say it. I don't say it in Igbo, but there's a thing that Nigerians like to say a lot, which is, if you laugh at me, they laugh my God. Right? If you're laughing at me, you're laughing at my God. You understand? So even if the thing if you think it's funny, God sent me to do this thing. So that's who you're actually laughing at, that kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely. Yes, men can do the arts. And when I say the art, there were arts that were reserved for men. So like iron smelting was a man's space, and carving was a man's space. Painting was more feminine. Right, so they would see things like painting. I'm trying to think of the other ones. Weaving, a bunch of different things, even in storytelling. So typically, in a traditional setting, the stories that are fictitious, like fictitious stories, are told by women. Stories that are real, I say real with quotes, that are dealing with reality, right, are told by men, traditionally. If you've read the book Things Fall Apart, there was a part where I think it's Ikemefuna was sitting and listening to his, I think it was his mother or one of Okonkwo's wives telling a story, like a fantastical story. And Okonkwo got mad and started yelling and pulled Ikemefuna away, because traditionally that was seen as a girly thing to do, to listen to fictitious stories, right? Now, when you're a child, it doesn't matter, but once you pass the man stage, whatever. And then if you know the book as well, Okonkwo has a lot of trauma that makes him try to overdo the manly thing, right? He tries to overdo it. And so that also is one of the ways that Achebe expressed that. So I'm guessing there are gender roles, but some were flexible. Yes, there's absolutely gender roles, but if you didn't fit them, that's just who you were. You know what I mean? That's who you were. Now, that doesn't mean that if you didn't fit gender roles, everybody was just happy with it and that kind of thing. Like, let's say, you know, just like here in the world today, sometimes you'll have a daughter and you think she's going to have kids and she's like, hey, I like girls. And then all of a sudden, the parents who are making all these plans for you that your God didn't make for you, right? They get upset. That happened then too. I don't doubt that happened. I wasn't there for every interaction. But yes, there is an acceptance of people's who they were. And you know what's really interesting too is that if you look at every single culture in the world that is not from the Abrahamic tradition, every single culture in the world, it's the exact same thing, right? So what's going on in the West is as far as, you know, starting to relook how we imagine gender roles in the past, it's the West stepping back from itself. But since the world was colonized, everybody is trying to mimic an 1841 white man. So, so a lot of places in the world now have this Victorian era mentality about gender roles that it's hard for them to shake. But if you go to their actual traditions, you know, that wasn't really the case, you know, and I'll argue that with anybody. Please, is it necessary to have a chi temple? If you don't want to, it's not necessary, no. You are your chi temple. You are your chi temple. You are your chi altar. But let me say this though, it helps. It really helps, right? It helps to be when you build an altar, it's you that you're representing. You're representing all parts of yourself. So the thing is, being a human being, being a part of the world, it is hard for me to see something or to accept something as real that I cannot physically see. And as elementary as that can sound, that's just how I'm going to turn this off. There's way too much light. Okay, that's a little better. So yeah, as elementary as it sounds, it's just who we are. We can't sense it with our five senses. We do not accept it as real. We always have a doubt. So in building an altar, you're representing the parts of you that you also cannot see. There's going to be something there that represents you, right? And there's going to be something there that represents your ancestors. That thing reminds you that you are the same thing as them. You're not a book onto yourself. You're a page within a larger book, right? And that page is not going to make sense unless you have the previous pages represented so that we can follow the whole story and reach the point that we're in. So in being able to represent your full universal self to the greatest extent that you can, you then get an awareness of self that you cannot have without representing yourself that way. It's like trying to know what you look like without a mirror. You understand? It's like trying to know what you look like without a reflection. I can touch myself, I can guess, I can assume things, but once you see yourself, it clicks. Atsumatsu, right? The universe was created when AK saw herself. When she opened the Obi Chuku and saw what Chuku was working on her. You understand? Chuku was working on creation. And when creation saw creation, the explosion happened and it became a reality, right? That's what Mado and More means. That Mado and More, two, like left and right hand, two parts of your existence that have to face and see each other and acknowledge each other in order for you to be real and exist. It's not something that you choose to do, it just happens. You understand? Once they go their separate ways, you don't exist anymore. You understand? So it helps to be able to visualize that larger you, your full scope of you and all the things that take to create you and things like that. And once you take a look at that in the morning and you go out in your day, whole different feeling. Whole different feeling. Blue, thank you. You're welcome. Do people only return through their descendants or they can return through other families? You can return through other families. You can return through other families. But, you know, I can only speak on the Igbo tradition as far as that goes, because a lot of traditions have different ideas of what reincarnation looks like and so forth. But you typically reincarnate through your own family, back through your family. Now, whether that's because how the culture is structured, that's a different thing, and so forth. But yeah, you do return through your family. How do you interpret that story? How do I interpret the Ojadili story? I interpret the Ojadili story, here's a good question. So the Ojadili story is an Ikenga story. And throughout the world, there are many Ikenga stories, right? Marvel is an Ikenga, all those are Ikenga stories. That's what it's talking about. What's another set? Marvel, I'm trying to think of some other, Dragon Ball Z. I used to watch that when I was a kid. Is an Ikenga story. That's talking about Ikenga. Samson from the Bible is an Ikenga story. Ojadili is an Ikenga story. You understand? So Ojadili was brought into the world with a gift for wrestling. He had this great ability to wrestle, right? But it was the arrogance that, okay, I've defeated everybody, and not being satisfied, and seeking more and seeking more, not knowing when to stop. That in some version of the story leads to his destruction. Because if you're always seeking the next thing, you're always going to find there's always going to be something greater than. So he's always seeking the next greater thing. He defeats, he goes to the next one, so on and so forth. And that sent him into it darted him into a hole, right? It darted him into a lot more where he never returned again. That kind of thing. Because he never let go of that seeking quest, that kind of thing. So it says something about a person's abilities. It says something about the idea of satisfaction. Sometimes you have to know when enough is enough. I think Dave Chappelle said, you have to set your price. You have to set your own price. So, for example, now if you're in a situation, right, you sign a little contract. Yeah, okay, you're gonna get $1,000 if you do this. All right, cool. You're gonna get 5,000 if you do this. You're gonna get 10,000 if you do this. 1 million, 2 million, that kind of thing. But with each time, you're going further and further away from home, right? You're moving further and further away from home. If you don't set your price, we can pull you clear to space. Someone can pull you clear to space with that mentality. So it is very much a story about setting your own price, and it is an Ikenga story. Naruto, I don't know Naruto that well, but in the Odinani group chat, Naruto has been brought up at least 7 times. Like once every meeting, somebody says something about Naruto. So I need to sit down and watch. I think it's Naruto. But I wouldn't be surprised if Naruto is a story. Any story where a person has to overcome themselves and serve a greater purpose. And in serving that greater purpose, they become a higher self. That is your Ikenga story. The Ikenga is the gift of your chi, right? So your chi brings you into the world for, let's say, one time and cause, a reason, or to exist in a space or to be a certain person. And when you are that thing, it gives you its power, right? It gives you its power. So you can do and be and operate and think and so forth at a higher level, at a divine level, if you're in your space. You also have a divine level of protection, right? There's an ilu that resonates with me a lot that says that if the chi of a blind man sends him into battle, it has already accounted for its blindness, right? So the chi of okay, I need you to go there and fight Attila the Hun. Oh no, I can't fight him. He's Attila the Hun, and I'm blind. Don't worry about it. Just go. I got you. You understand? That's the relationship of the chi and an individual, and that heightened ability to do that is the Ikenga. I used another example in one of my videos a long time ago. It was like a short Q&A video. Think about bringing those back, by the way. Like a short Q&A video, and somebody had asked is there a concept of free will in Odinani? I said, yes, everybody has absolutely free will. And in fact, you and your chi have a partnership. It's not necessarily your chi is in control of you, as weird as that sounds. But the path your chi has paved for you is like a paved road. Sorry, and everywhere else is like, let's say, wilderness or just like the unpaved road. So if I'm driving my car to get somewhere and I move through that paved road, it's going to be an easier, smoother, more natural, whatever. But if I want to cut through and drive through a few neighborhoods, I can do that. You understand? But I'm not to accept the rough and tumble of the decision I made. That kind of thing, right? There's an ila that says, if you will it, your chi wills it. What a person allows, or what the person permits, their chi permits. That kind of thing. What you will, your chi wills. So yes, you can follow your chi, but you can tell your chi to follow you too. A lot of what's done as far as ancestral work goes, when you go to your altar, is saying, I'm going to embark on this. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to make this decision. I want to know if you are with me, or I want you to be with me. You understand? If it is not for me, if it is not in my path, show me a sign, let me know. If it is for me, I need you with me. So that's an example of onyekwe chiekwe, that you said, hey, I'm going to do this thing. I need the team with me. Let's go. That kind of thing. So that's what that is. Please, can you speak on feeding your chi, feeding your ndiche, sacrificing to our you want to kill me here with all these? I mean, which one do you want me to? That's a lot of them, bro. my next video, Chidama, my next video is called Onwa Aja Ana Explained or something like that. I haven't thought of the title. It's going to go into the concept of feeding your chi. It's going to explain what that means. It's going to explain the mechanics behind it, why that is a thing, with a particular emphasis on the sacrifice of a living thing like an animal, the use of blood or blood sacrifice, that kind of thing. Because I want to explain that particular aspect of the ancestral tradition. So all of that is going to be included. I'm sure you spoke to a Divya that told you to do all of that, because that's their favorite thing to prescribe these. That's their favorite thing. I have to just be feeding people up and down. That shit kind of annoying. But yeah, just catch if Chidama, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. I'm gonna try to release the video on Sunday. I will release the video on Sunday or Saturday. Are there times that it's best to go against your chi? Like take a rough and tumble path, so to speak. That's up to you to decide. That is up to you to decide. No. It's okay if your question is lengthy. It's just like, man, you there's so many little parts. You know, the bone it has a lot of, or the fish has a lot of bone in it. Chinese concept of the chi and the word chi is about. Oh wow. Okay, Darius, that's really interesting. I don't know if we're connected, if you're on Patreon or anything like that, but if you have anything about the Chinese chi being 40 to 50 years old, please send that. That's very interesting. What is very interesting, though, is that the Chinese chi is actually describing the Ikenga, from my knowledge. Everything I took a look at it and saw what it was, and it looks like Ikenga, your vital energy, that kind of thing. We're able to finish your thoughts on this new moon. If I miss, okay, yeah, I go back into that. So, in summary, as far as the new moon goes, this is Onwa Aja Ana, the new moon, the Aja Ana is the soil, right? But soil means a lot to our ancestors. Soil is an enfant. So if you have watched my enfant explain video, or if you were in the chat earlier to listen to what I had to say about the enfant, you could also watch it back and catch it, that kind of thing. So because soil is an enfant, soil is sacred. The earth is sacred, right? If I'm holding earth in my hands, I cannot lie. If I'm lying on my enfant, right? In America, they have the term, put that on your mother's grave, right? When somebody wants to make sure you're telling the truth, like that kind of thing. So that's what all that or something you swear on, take oaths to. It's also, I mean, there's a lot to it. You can watch the video, that kind of thing. So in essence, the sand, when you look at sand and look at sky, you're looking at the same thing, right? All things are Aja Ana, all things are created from earth, and it is all part of one single organism. It is all one living thing known as Shineke. Everything we're dealing with is one living thing. I am a piece of hair on Shineke, as you are also. Maybe you're over here. You understand? Blue, maybe you're one of the white ones I have here. You understand? We're all just little pieces and cells. Let's call them cells or atoms. We're all little atoms in this larger thing. And earth, the sands, allow us to get a microcosm of that. So when you hold the earth and you're swearing, you're also swearing on stars. You understand? When you're dealing with the earth, you're dealing with stars. When you're dealing with stars, you're dealing with the earth. That kind of thing. So that is what this moon is about now. Every community is going to have a different way that they acknowledge this particular moon. Different communities will also have different names for this moon as well. But based on the calendar that I'm using, there's no set sacrament for this moon. And usually when there's nothing set in stone that you have to do, you'll now see variations in different communities that they'll do. Maybe they're acknowledging something in their history. Maybe they're acknowledging something in how they interpret cosmology, right? So what I'm giving you guys, what I'm speaking about is what's called Odinani, as it is on the land. It's observation. Earlier, somebody asked a question about Kabbalah. That is it true that Kabbalah came from the people? And a lot of people have said that. You understand? Now, I don't know. I don't know the answer. A lot of people say that. A lot of people say that Odinani comes from Israel and all that stuff. I don't know. You understand? I need to look into it more. Typically, I'm not naturally inclined to believe it, but a lot of the things that I've doubted in my learning journey have been the things that are not only true, but the things that I learned the most from. So I've learned to just say, I don't know. But what I will say is this. Odinani is observation. Kabbalah is observation. Somebody wrote down Kabbalah because they pieced together what they can prove and what they can say. This is real. Like I'm describing the sky. You understand? So if the Igbos are describing the sky and the Kabbalists are describing the sky, we're gonna say similar things. So that is Udinani as it is on the land observation. Now, what is done on top of Udinani is called Umenala. Umenala, as it is done on the land, right? And a lot of people use the terms interchangeably. They're one and the same. There's no real difference, right? So because there's water here, we're going to live our life this way. There's water here is the Odinani. We're going to live our life this way is the Omenala. So I'm giving you these things, and you can piece together how you choose to live your life. If you want to incorporate these concepts, you will make your own Omenala, how you will behave on the land, that kind of thing. A lot of the times, the land itself will tell you how to behave on it. It goes back to that awful concept of lawful. If you're going to live on this land, these are the rules for being in this space, for being on top of it, that kind of thing. Odinala does not come from Israel. I can say that it doesn't come from Israel because the archaeological record backs the fact that that is a very ridiculous notion to think that Odinani comes from Israel. But any connection outside of what I know, I'm willing to say I don't know. Understand? My terrestrial, non-practitioner, non-teacher, non-researcher mind says no, right? No. But when they say I don't know, because maybe somebody will see something somewhere, I don't know. It's generally thought that Igbo cosmology that there's life elsewhere in the universe. I don't know. Snapple and cats, I don't know. I don't know if there is an observation of life elsewhere. I will say that if you watch the video, the Four World Ages, during the Four World Ages, when all of the by the way, I think I'm going to start going live on my phone. I think that's the issues I've been using my laptop. But during the Four World Ages, we were what were known as Ndimbu, right? So those are the first people. Now, Ndimbu were light beings. Ndimbu can go in and out of creation. And in fact, our home is Obi-Chukwu, but a lot of Ndimbu would enter creation, would enter the universe just to have fun, just to see what's going on, just to enjoy it, that kind of thing, just have an experience. What ended up happening was that the gate closed between this world and Obi-Chukwu, and a lot of Ndimbu that came over to have fun and just to enjoy the world are our ancestors, right? They stayed here, they had to stay here, and they multiplied and so forth. But that also means that the majority of us, the majority of this thing, this light force that is humanity or exists like what we call life, right? The majority of it is elsewhere, right? Is elsewhere. Now, if there were other worlds and they went there to observe, or universes or dimensions, and they went there and observe, that's fair too. There's more of them in Obi-Chukwu than there are here on Earth if they multiply at the same rate that we multiply here on Earth, that kind of thing. Another thing to observe is the fact that every single person according to our ancestors, every single person is tied to a star, Babandu, call it Babandu. Every single person is tied to a star. Like each person has a star in the sky that is them. It's them manifested on a celestial level. Now, if you look at the amount of stars there are in creation, again, going back to Ajana, each grain of sand is also tied to a star. So it is a visualization of the infinity of creation, right? So if there's that much going on, I have no reason to doubt that there's more than us here, right? But this is me deducing based off what I know rather than something that I observed or learned or heard, that kind of thing. So I'm willing to think that our ancestors believe there's life elsewhere. There are some that say that we came from the moon, that our original home was the moon, that Ndimbu didn't go to the earth first. They went to the moon first. And after staying on the moon, some of them came to earth. That's something that I've heard as well, but I don't know what that means per se. Can you talk a little bit about Nim Mary? I think she's calling me. Vic, that's a big topic. Is there something specific you want to know about her? I can give you a general rundown. And if you have specific questions, you can go ahead and ask. If I'm skipping your question, don't worry, I'll scroll back up, that kind of thing. So, but yeah, Nemiri is water. Nemiri is water. Nemiri's day is Uri, so she's the second day. Afal is the third. Nemri is a world, she's a world onto her own, just the way Anna is a world onto her own. And she has children the way Anna has children, right? So a lot of her children, the thing that is different about Nemiri in opposed to difference between Nemiri and Anna is that Nemiri's children are more mischievous, as perceived by us Earth, like what we call regular people. They're more mischievous, and they're mischievous to the point where they break the rules of creation very often. So a lot of them, and they're also very enjoyment oriented, right? They're very passion driven, enjoyment oriented. They exist or they wish to live for the sake of happiness. The Afro people, Earth people, are more duty oriented. They want to live for the sake of duty and service, that kind of thing. Duty is more important to them than enjoyment. So because they're enjoyment people, some of them, and they're troublesome, some of them will sneak over into this side of creation, right? And they'll walk among us and that kind of thing. Some of them are called Ubanje and so forth, right? But there's also different classifications for people from that world. So a lot of them try to sneak over and enjoy different things, but when they sneak over, they have a certain nature to them. They're again very passion and enjoyment oriented. If you watch my video, Nemiri explained and Ovanje explained, it goes into those two things. But one of the things that's particular about them is that, you know, maybe they want to cross over because there was somebody that they was in the process of being born. They thought that person was particularly beautiful, and they just want to find that person in the world. By the time they cross over, they don't necessarily remember that on a cognitive level, but there's something spiritual that drives them towards other people. There's tons. Some of them will come just because they want to eat candy. You pull up your pants? Okay, come here, I'll help you. So some of them will come because they want to eat candy, and they'll come here and they'll just be obsessed with candy, and all they want to do on Earth is eat candy and that kind of thing. So yeah. Let me look here. How different is Igbo? Yes, I'm live. You want to say hi? Okay, cool. Namdi's coming to say hi.
Hey.
Say ndewo.
Ndewo.
Say Igbo, umu Igbo, bueno.
Umu Bukimo.
Umu Igbo, bueno. Cool. Yeah, so how different are Yoruba and Igbo cosmology? What I have seen is this. Now, earlier I said that Odinani is like observation, and then Omenala is how that observation is factored in. Like, okay, based on if this is the way the world is, this is the way we're gonna live, right? That kind of thing. So I think a lot of times the difference between Ifa or Yoruba and Igbo is geography, literally. I think there's a little bit more emphasis on the chi in the Igbo tradition, and with the Yoruba, there's more emphasis on the Abara or the Orisha, as they call it. But it's interesting too because we also use the term Arushi and Orisha or Olisa or Orisha. We use those terms as well. They're barely different. Anybody that looks at the two of them and studies well will see that you will have a hard time even identifying them as two different people. But you can't tell your regular Yoruba and your regular Igbo person what I'm saying because they'll argue with you, but you'll have a very hard time seeing them as yeah. I do think that there is also a difference between Ifa in Nigeria and Ifa in, or let me say in West Africa and Ifa in the like the Western Hemisphere, like the New World they call it. So yeah. Hey, Amaka Namdi. Namdi, say, I want you to hold this here and say, Ise.
Ise.
Renna, thank you for your donation. Thank you very much. Say, Dalun. Say it with your chest now. Dalun. Dalun.
I can't see them.
Oh, you can't see them? It's right there. Cool, Rena, thank you so much for the donation. Thank you so much. But yeah, there's barely a difference between them. You are lucky and blessed. I appreciate that as an Igbo person. I think we're all lucky and blessed. Wonder if, forgive my spelling, those in Ubi Chuku have any connection to what Muslims refer to as jinn. I have to look into what jinn are. I know just off of like casual observation, I know what it is, but I think jinn is closer to just more. There's some more that has nothing to do with what we recognize as people and animals and things like that. So I think jinn is just different types of more, or what they would call equency, right? So equency, there's the abara known as equency, and then there's what's called equency. So the way I said that Nemiri is a world unto herself, and she has a whole bunch of children and things that come from her world, just like we are things that come from Anna. We belong.
I'm laughing.
Yeah, I know you're laughing. That we come from Anna, and that's where we belong. Ekwensu also, Ekwensu is not necessarily a world, but it's a species. Agon was a species as well. It's gonna sound kind of weird, but it's like a species of spirit. And the one we refer to as Ekwensu is the one that the Abara, that other Abara fear, or the other spirits fear. So that's Ekwensu is the one that they're the honcho of this world of different spirits. But those different spirits also exist, and some of them are very problematic. Some of them are very helpful. They just have different natures. And when I look at what I know off of like a outside observer basis about what jinn are, and look at the equincy, they seem to correlate. There was one equincy, for example, that was identified in a document I have in the library. By the way, if you're interested in Igbo cosmology, culture, spirituality, all of the stuff I'm saying, I learned a lot of it from my medicine library. So I have hundreds of books, ebooks, articles, all available for patrons. So if you want to do that, you want to get a hold of that, and it's all sorted by folder too, so you can go straight to the topics you're interested in and look there and see what's available there. So yeah, that's on patreon.com/the medicine show. But this particular equincy was prone to making people lazy. So when it was around, everybody's energy would drop. And this equincy would come into people's houses. It was in this particular person's house and cause sloth, what we call sloth, right? So they did a ceremony where they swept up.
You're very ritual.
Yes, I'm gonna have to sign off pretty soon. They did a ceremony where they swept up the sands of the place, and they swept it out, and then they made a pact with Equincy to keep that Equincy out. So Equincy is the regulator of the Equincy is the regulator of the Equincy. Does Amadioha have any feminine components? The way, yes, the feminine component of Amadioha is Ana. So the earth is the feminine component of Igwe or Amadioha, the sky. Amadioha is the sky, right? The name Amadioha is also interesting. It's Amadioha. Amadi is like a man, like a free man, or like a landlord. And then the D is like a husband, right? And then Aha is the people. Aha, so is free man of the people, or D also means like master. So like free man of the people, that kind of thing, or man of the people, that type of thing. And it said that when a great leader emerges from a group, that's a manifestation of Amadioha. Now, Amadioha has to marry Anna to exist, right? So if we as people, the collective, if all human beings got together and our collective will forms Amadioha, right? The Amadioha is also known as Igwe, and Igwe is also translated as the collective. You understand? So the collective will of humanity, or the collective will of a group, it creates that Amadioha spirit, and it is married to the earth. So you can interpret that in many ways. However you want to interpret it is on you. Emeka one name, no. Okay, cool. What is the significance of John Canoe or Njoku-ji? I'll have to probably do a whole stream on Njoku-ji. I have to sign off pretty soon. But Njoku-ji is the Abara, or the spirits associated with agriculture, specifically the yam. Njoku-ji, I found something, a very, 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 very rare old document that actually connects Njoku-ji as a manifestation of Amadioha as well, right? It is an interpretation of that energy called Amadioha, is also Njoku-ji. There are also interpretations of Njoku-ji as feminine. So if you want to see an Njoku-ji video, I can definitely do that. If you're on the Patreon, send me a message about that. I'll put it up for vote. Can I talk about Agun? Is it a separate spirit, or do we each have Agun? We all have our own Agun. Each of us have Agun. We all have Onwa. Agun is a part of us that reincarnates. And so every single person has Agun. Every single plant has Agun. This cup has Agun. And part of being a person who is a clairvoyant whatever title you give it, a person who's connected to a higher self is able to connect to their agon, and their agon is able to communicate with the agon of other things. And that is why a Dibia can speak to a plant and figure out what that plant heals, right? That is why a Dibia can go to a patch of land and then understand the energy of that land and what should be done with this land, that type of thing, because it is the agon connecting two ways. You can go ahead. You can think of agon as like a phone, like a cosmic phone, in a way. It connects all things. So yes, everything has agon. My Muslim ex used to call me Jinn. But my ex is Muslim, he used to call me Jinn. That's wild. I've always wondered how he is by the suffering, the longing. I feel I have agon rather than Onwa. Do you have advice as far as what? Okay, Life is a Game says that they feel that they have agon rather than Onwa, or their agon is active. I'm going to try to plug something, and it's probably going to turn me off. So if it turns me off, then good night. But if I stay on, then we will continue. So bear with me. Give me 1 minute. So having agon as opposed to UI, you're going to need to do what's called Iruagon, right? Iruagon is sitting down and making and opening a. Iruagon is sitting down and having opening a line of dialogue and a relationship with agon. You understand? So you're gonna need to do that. If you have agon, you're gonna have certain gifts. And those gifts, again, if you were here earlier, maybe you could rewatch the stream. Those gifts mean that you are a custodian for humanity, you're a custodian for creation, right? So those gifts are not given to you to enjoy. If you take them and you try to enjoy them on your own, they're going to drive you crazy, for lack of a better term, right? They are there to serve the rest of humanity. So if you feel that agon, that you're connected to agon, we can talk a little more. I don't know if you're on Patreon, reach out to me on Patreon. If you're on Instagram, maybe you can't become Patreon right now. If you're on Instagram or Twitter, reach out and we can have a longer conversation about that, because there's a lot to it. So one of the things you can do is Iran, or making peace with agon. Hey, somebody donated. Chimoge, he said, hey, you got it. Oh, Urena, I didn't do your prayer, so I'll get to you later. Chimoge, you got it. Okay, no. He said, all right, Uwa model is feminine. Since Eke is feminine, is a counterpart to Uwa more, therefore masculine. Are there bodies of spirit? Are the bodies of spirits masculine? Yes. And you know what's funny? This is something I actually learned very, very, very recently. So you're catching up to me as far as what I know and that kind of thing. More is masculine. More is masculine. And more is a reflection of chi, the way agon is a reflection of eke. And I used to think it was the other way around. It's funny enough, I think I always give him credit for this. Ross Jones, who's in this chat right now. We had a conversation about that, and then like a little bit after, I found something that actually reconnected. There's this book on the medicine library that's available for the patrons, where it was written in, I want to say, the 40s. And this was an old man for the 40s. So this is somebody from, the pre-colonial whatever. And he had told the story of Chineke. But in the story of Chineke, he called Chi Mo and he called Eke Abu. And his story was different. Now, if you look at the movements in his story were the same, where they were one, and then there was a separation, and that separation created the earth, and the feminine aspect became the earth, resurrected as the earth. The masculine aspect separated or distanced itself. The same movements, but it was different. So I looked further into the connection between Chi and Mo, and what he was saying made sense. There was another thing that I learned recently, that in the past, people didn't used to say Chuku as often. Now, you can still say Chuku, but people used to actually say more for anything non-physical. So your chi was called more, but there's also your more too. So it's hard to explain. So more is connected to chi the way, I was going to say more is connected to chi the way Agon was connected to Eke. And therefore, I theorize Allah model would be masculine then. All of the masculine elements are invisible. right? Or invisible. So Nemir, you can see water, you can live in water. Anyanwu, you can see Anyanwu. You can't live in the sun, but there's things in there. You can enter the sun and it's physical matter, it's physical space. But you can't live in Amadioha. You can't live in Ekwensu. You can't enter Ekwensu. And if you look at Igwe, the sky, you can't touch it. You can't touch sky. You can't grasp it. It is inexistent. It doesn't exist. But the existence of Earth allows it to exist in a way, right? So anything more, anything immaterial is masculine, right? The natural world, the physical world is feminine, right? So how would the manifestation of their bodies be? You tell me. I don't know. But yeah, somebody said Ise. What does Ewo mean? Ewo is just like when Charlie Brown says good grief, but only with more pep, I guess. Like Ewo, like something big just happened. Big good or big bad, Ewo is a noise more than a word. I hope we're talking about the same thing. The book that speaks deeply with countless references to the word chi is, in Chinese, only being 40, 50 years old, is called Chi Kung Fu Fever. Yeah, I know there's a lot of rebranding of Chinese concepts for the modern world and modern times. And a lot of things were not perceived how the way we perceive it now, they were back then. Even with Japanese, like I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but even like the samurai code, Bushido, that was made up like 50, 60, maybe 80 years ago. The samurais didn't have a code and things like that they followed. The person made it up during the age of nationalism, where all the Europeans were lying about their histories. So then he's like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to lie about mine too. So everybody's trying to hype up their own, make themselves sound more honorable and cool and all that. But samurais were just like rich people that were allowed to have weapons. And so, does somebody have it? Okay, you already answered that. I'm going to scroll through to see if there's questions I didn't answer. Keep them coming. I'm having fun. Hopefully, nothing shuts off on me for no reason. I think I'm going to use my phone from now on because clearly this is not a laptop. The land itself will show you how to behave. This is the definition of indigenous knowledge. Yes, the land itself will tell you its rules. It's not you that will tell the land its rules. You understand? Your mother will tell you how to live. You don't teach your mother how to live. That's all planetary bodies are tied to man. Chidama, yes. In astrology, all planetary bodies are tied to man. Absolutely. Same concept. Same concept. What I've noticed about spirits in ancient cultures is that the mainstream studies misinterpret astral beings for aliens. You are not, listen, Ross, as far as aliens and things like that go, a lot of the devias that I speak to, right? So like Nze who wrote Lepers of Magic Dawn, I consider him a friend. Things like that. They believe it. They say the same thing you just said, that these things being called aliens are misinterpretations of astral beings, of light beings. Ndimbu that never became Ndiegede. We're Ndiegede. We came into the earth and death caught up to us. They said that death escaped from a pouch and caught up to us, right? But it didn't catch up to them, the ones that didn't land on earth. Some of them still cross over, right? So they believe these things. They say these things all the time. But I don't know too much about that. One day somebody will request a video and I'll sit down with the topic and I'll know a lot more about the connection between extraterrestrials or things like that and light beings and that type of thing. But I can tell you that in the contemporary way of thinking, a lot of the times what happens is we have this thing we call logic. And I used to be like this too. I used to be one of these people. You have this thing called logic, and you think logic helps you figure out the world and figure out reality and that type of thing. So you have logic, you have to have a thing called illogic, right? Things that are not logical, things that don't make sense, right? And what leaning only on your logic, really believing that you are a mind form, right? That the only perceptive thing you have is your mind. What that does is you shut off a lot of things that it's not for you to explain, or maybe you can't explain yet, or that type of thing, right? You shut those things off and then you try to fit them in the box that you already created. So sometimes you'll see something that is not logical, but then you'll try to connect it to something logical immediately. I was watching this video earlier about the moon. And the video was that you're talking about why a lot of 80% of nurses say that full moons affect the behavior of patients. If you are a nurse, if you have worked in mental health, that type of thing. If you're a healer, if you're a DB, anybody in that space of healing and connection, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I used to work in mental health, and I know this. When the full moon hits, shit hits the fan. I used to work in a psychiatric prison. And when the full moon hits, everything the medicine stops working, right? Symptoms activate. People who are perceptive perceive things more. Some people have a harder time sleeping, that kind of thing. And so the person was trying to explain this, but because it was illogical and it sounded too much like what's in the illogical bag, he tried to equate it to the things that he understood and try to dismiss it. And 90% of the comments were saying, no, dude, I'm a nurse. This is real. Another person, I worked in a psychiatric ward. This is real, that kind of thing. So logic is a wonderful thing, but sometimes it can be a closed box. So, or let's believe that, man. Or logic, anyways. Let's call it logic. Yeah. You believe that answer? Yes, boy, I'm talking to you right now. What's up? Sad the samurai were actually cool. Explains why they sounded like assholes when I read about them in school, though. Yeah, the samurais were just like, it's a class. Oh, you want to get stronger? Okay, we'll go to the gym afterwards. My son's really into going to the gym these days. Oh, you want to eat so you can get stronger? Okay, I'll get you something, okay? Give me just 1 second. I'm almost done. Yes, what? You're happy? I'm happy to hear that. Yeah, that's good. So, yeah, the samurais were wilding. They were just rich food with swords. I can get you food? Okay, well, we're going to eat very soon, okay? I'm going to be wrapping up, guys. So if you guys got last questions, throw them in, throw them in, throw them in. The man of the house is hungry. No, I charge it. If you guys want to hold 1 minute, I can get him a snack. Think of some questions. Full moon is attacked to mental health issues. The term lunatic, yes, is lunar, right? Our ancestors, or the ancestor that made up that word lunatic, was telling us the same thing. You know what I mean? And I've seen it with my own 2 eyes, so I completely. Yeah. I'm happy. Now, you want to do the stream for me, Sarah? Hi. All right, I'm going to finish this stream. I want you to have this apple for now. We'll get you. Yeah. You know, I used to always try to avoid all these parenting in the middle of the stream, but what do you want to eat? Nuggets? Okay, wait 10 minutes and I'll make you nuggets, okay? Cool. So, yeah, I just try to avoid parenting on the stream, but it is what it is, you know. So, my apologies. Thank you very much for waiting, guys. Thank you so much. Did you catch my question? No, maybe I missed it. Okay, there it is. Is the story of Alpha divination being gifted to DBS since the beginning of civilization mythical? Hold on. Give me what? Mythical, or is there a valid information proving Alpha is practiced that says 6,000 plus years ago? So, the way I know that's how old something is, the way I know how old something is in how widespread it is in human use, right? So Afa, the in the Kwa language family, KWA. Can you repeat what you said about land? Yes, I can do that. Oh, he said donation for Jory Bryant. If I'm saying your name wrong, let me know. Jory got get to nyoba itiaka get to no wow get to neke no re na for na for he said yeah Chukwudumenge. Yeah, so about Alpha. So there's the Kwa language family, KWA, right? And this particular group of people, it goes from Igbo land to just right at Ghana, like where Ghana is, right? And all of those people have Afa in common. Now, linguistics, geneticists, and anthropologists have all more or less concluded that these people have a common origin, right? And based on the archaeology, I strongly believe their common origin is in Igbo land, specifically in the Uguele Leja area. They spread out from there. And every single one of those people do Afa. Some people call it Afa, some people call it Ifa, some people call it Efa, some call it Ifi, all these different names, but it's usually vowel, consonant, vowel, and usually ends with an A. You know what I mean? So when you see things like that, when you see the fact that divination is in every single human group, that tells me that the things that follows all of humanity, burying people, divination, marriage, and community forming, all these things were with us at the very beginning. So Afa is way older than 6,000 years. I strongly believe. Yay, mommy's back. Uma, what's up? Yeah, so divination is, I believe divination is far older than 6,000 years. There have been divination instruments found older than 6,000 years. And on top of it being, give me just a minute, on top of it being as old as it is, the specific Apapala, the one that we call Afa that we know in West Africa, has been with us since the beginning of our culture. Our ancestors say that it came around the time that death came, which is Ugachi. So in the four world ages, the beginning one is Ugaka, you understand? And in Ugaka, there was no death. We were light beings. Once Ugachi hit, we became conscious of our mortality. We began to die. We began to wear clothing. We became aware of ourselves, and we did not have an immediate connection to Chuku. Uluma. Can you get Nandi? So yeah. So we didn't have an immediate connection to Chuku anymore. So we had to look onto the earth for answers. That's when we started building our Rishi. Our Rishi were also with us since the beginning. We began building our Rishi, and then in that time, we also figured out how to do Apapala or Ifa. Now, my next video is on Onwa Aja Ana, it's on sacrifice, right? And in that video, I'm going to explain the cosmic strings that we have or that connect us to the universe called Ete. I'm also going to explain why sacrifice is done, that type of thing. But the video after that one is going to be on the 7 layers. You understand? And what's particularly interesting about that video, or what's important in that video, is it actually explains divination, why divination is done the way it's done. But just to give you the brief, your highest level, your highest sphere of more, the final sphere is a thing called Aro, right? And Aro is a part of you that comes and goes. It is not permanent, it's not fixed. You understand? It comes and it goes. And if you are a diviner, if you have the capability to divine, if you are a clairvoyant, if you have Abia, which is divine wisdom, which is wisdom that's not your own, that comes from the other source, that means that you have that thing called Aro. It shows up and it goes away. It shows up and it goes away. There's something fixed. Now, if yours is fixed, that thing that we call having Aro, that's what that is. You understand? That's when your top 2, some say top 3 spaces of more are fixed and they're active. That's the thing we call having Aro. Those people become healers and diviners, right? And this thing is universal. Every single culture has this concept somehow, some way, somewhere. You understand? So thanks for asking that. Can you repeat what you said about land? Yes, I said a lot about land, though. But I'll try to be brief, which isn't my forte. But I'll try to be brief. But this moon, the new moon we're entering is Onwa Aja Ana, the new moon of sand. Sand, right? So Aja Ana is an Afo. Now, Afo, you were born into the world with an Afo, which is a pact that you made with creation, a certain set of principles you made with creation. And so long as you keep to your Afo, you are protected by creation itself, right? So long as you keep it, you are protected by creation. At the same time, you cannot violate that. If you violate that Afo, that protection is gone and you're in the wilderness, right? Anything can happen, right? That type of thing. So the earth itself, sand, land is Afo. It's an Afo. So when you hold earth, or if you have earth or sand in your altar, Do not lie at your altar. You don't go there and start lying. You don't go there and start saying you're going to do something you're not going to do. Once you put sand in your altar, every single thing that comes out of your mouth, you have to absolutely mean it, because all four retains, right? This one's going to be for the fellas, right? Those of us that have been in relationships with women, you know that the first, if you say one thing and you go back and try to say something else, she's going to pull. You understand? Like, hey, you said this. You understand? The same way that the earth is, you know? Okay, I'm going to take you out for dinner. And all of a sudden, I don't know. There's going to be, but if you tell your dude friends, your guy friends, yeah, I don't really feel like going anymore. Whatever. It's not a big deal. So it's that cosmic, that principle is unusually cosmic. The things you put into the mother are permanent. They stay, right? So that's Aja Ana. Now, earth itself, the sands of the earth are what's called ogod. It's a cloth. Sand is a cloth, right? Even the term Aja, the root verb is jakai, right? So it's a cloth that covers Ana. The Aja is a cloth that covers Ana. And that same cloth is reflected in the sky. Because remember, in Igbo cosmology, things manifest on different levels. So my Aja is my skin. This is the cloth. This is my Aja Ana that covers skin. You understand? On the earth level, on nature level, it becomes sand. Sand that covers the earth. On a cosmic level, it's the stars, right? So for every single grain of sand, there's a star out there in the sky. For every single person, there's a star for them and a grain of sand for them. So we're connected through that thing. And then what else did I say about land? I think that's more or less everything I said about land. If there's anything I missed, then yeah. I thought on market day. Yes, I thought it was a market day, but I thought it was a market day for a reason. Yes. So what we're talking about is the same thing. Isn't it interesting how the Yoruba word for forest, or even an ancient name for Olodumare, is Igbo? What are your thoughts on that linguistic dynamic? Yeah, people have brought it up. I have my own theories, but Yoruba people will get stressed. Yoruba people will get stressed if I say it. I strongly believe that Yoruba culture came from Igbo culture. I have a lot of evidence to back it up. They'll be stressed if you say it, but I strongly believe that's where it came from, right? And it's a matter of geography. Igbo people live in a forest, and Yoruba people, while it's a forest, it is more of a plain. It's like plains and hills and things like that. But perhaps that's what it is. I don't know why that is, but the Yoruba word for forest is and that kind of thing. People, however they say it. So the Volta Niger language and genetic connection, Yoruba, Orisha, Igbo, Arushi, divination rituals are definitely similar. Yeah, so I have a breakdown in the medicine library. If you guys are interested in this connection too, I have a folder that kind of goes into it. It's called like neighboring cultures. And I have another one called a global African cosmology or something like that, where it goes into all the different, it like has documents on the different systems. And I have one in there. If you're a patron, ask me. Remember to ask me. I can send you a link if you're interested. But it breaks down the Alpha language. So every single thing that you say in Alpha, then it takes the terms in Alpha and it compares it to other languages in the area. And there's like Igbo says Udi, Yoruba says Udu, but some Igbo people also say Udu. You understand? When a language is older, it has more variance. And Igbo has the most variance of any language in Nigeria. That's why Igbo people always talk about dialects up and down. That kind of thing, right? So, but Yoruba has dialects. So we say Odi, they say Odu, and it just means cosmic darkness. It means darkness, right? Oduduwa, that's where that comes from. You understand? Yeah. So Elmo, tell that to Yoruba trying to deport us. Tell that to the Yoruba trying to deport us from Lagos. I beg. You know, the Oni of Ife hinted at it. He said he had a speech where he says that he knows that Igbo and Yoruba people come from the same source. You understand? But I think he knows more than that, right? I think he knows more than that. I'll just say this. One of the reasons I say that, I'm very confident that a lot of the cultures in Africa came from Igbo culture, is that the archaeological record in Igbo land is the oldest in all of Africa, right? Other than like the hominids in East Africa. But the actual human settlement evidence is oldest, especially in West Africa, right? And it is the monoliths, that the stone, the axes and the spears that you find at Uguele Now, if you've watched my Osu Explained documentary, if you haven't watched it, watch it. I know the Osu topic stresses people out, so you may want to avoid it because you don't want to hear anything negative. Trust me, just watch it. Because it's really about the history of Igbo people based off of the evidence that I've found. Now, the only other signs of human activity that old is a piece of cloth from Morocco. Now, what is interesting is that our ancestors said that in Ugachi, when Ugaka ended, we entered Ugachi. And Ugachi, we started wearing cloth or clothes. Raffia first, though. We started wearing clothes and we started building Arushi. And those stone monoliths are at a site at an Arushi, and an Arushi specifically called Nechuku. And one of the things Nechuku would do was that if you go to her, she would award you with a spear, an arrow. Right. She would give you a spear. So what they found was like a pile of spears that goes back thousands of years. Like you can date the rocks and things like that. Goes back thousands of years. And like just constantly just throwing away like broken spears or ones that didn't look good, they would throw them away. And the thing goes back to like the time of the woolly mammoths. Like at the time that it was built, Homo sapiens had not left Africa yet. You understand? So when I see something like that, and I see other things, I'm not going to go too far into it. And then I see all these connections, all these other cultures. It's like, oh, okay, obviously people just spread from this point. That's how I see it. Then if you look at like genetics, things like genes, a lot of people have done ancestry, like, and are really into it on a deep level. So there's really no difference between all these people that we talk about. Do you have a list of the Irishi? I don't think you can list them. And the reason that you can't list them is that I'll break it down this way. I'm a person. I have an Ikenga. I have Mo. I have Eke. I have Chi, right? Those are four things that I have. Chi, Eke, Abu, Mo. You understand? I have Abu, right? Water is an Abara. It has an Ikenga. That is an Irish or an Abara on its own. It has Mo. That is an Abara. It has another. And then it'll have a male counterpart because it's feminine. It'll have a male counterpart. And then he'll have his. And it just keeps going like that and going like that and going like that. So it's almost innumerable. It's almost innumerable. Like, and I think we've used examples like we use at Chuku. Chuku has an Ikenga the way I have an Ikenga. Chuku's Ikenga is called Amadioha. Some people call it Igwe. Some people use Ekwensu. Some people use Kamalu, which is short, I believe, for Nkamalu, something like that. There's different names for it, but people have different names for that. That Ikenga element of Chuku. The thing that Chuku uses to enact its will on earth, right? And then Amadioha will now have its own will now have its own little facets and things like that. Don't allow. Yeah. Hold on. Give me just a second. Amadioha will have its own. So it just keeps cracking open and cracking open. So as far as the Abara, they're kind of innumerable. And then some people can take a spirit and make it into an Abara by building an Irishi for it, right? And that is what you see when you see a lot of statues. Everybody does this worldwide. When you see a lot of statues and memorials, that's what that is. That's what they're doing. They're taking more and they're deifying. So it's a no. Yorubas, Orumole, Igbo, Abara seem like they're the same ideas expressed through different lexicons. Yeah, you see a lot of that, which would make Orishas, Arishi like different apps. Hey, that's why I made you a mod. Oh yeah, apology. Yes. The Arishi are apps. Yes, that's a good way of saying it. They are devices for accessing the same thing. You know what I mean? They're devices for accessing the same thing. As a linguist, this is one of my favorite topics. Gerard, I appreciate you saying that. I'm really interested in linguistics. Somebody asked what my theory is. I think I did share my theory. Ulama. Okay, but I can't see my screen. I can't see my stream. Give me a minute. I'm almost done. I keep saying I'm almost done. So, to my knowledge, word Yoruba is recently. It's pretty recent. Yeah, the word Yoruba is recent. The word Yoruba is, even the word Igbo is kind of recent. All of those terms are kind of recent. It doesn't mean they're not describing something real, but Yoruba, I believe the history, and this could be wrong, I don't know, it is a semi-derogatory term for Oyo, people from Oyo. You understand? Or Yoruba or something like that. So it was used by Northerners. And a lot of the Northern Yoruba groups would call the other groups Yoruba, but they themselves, they weren't Yoruba, that kind of thing. But after a while, it became common, even during the time of slavery, when they take documents, they use terms like Anango to say people from that general area that speak that general same language. I think Anango or something like that was one of the terms they used to use. Igbo is the same kind of thing, right? Where back in the day, it's like a race, right? So I'm from Awon Mama, you understand? I'm from a place called Awon Mama. My immediate neighbors, right? Let's say it's Amiri. They were Amiri people. We don't become Igbo people until we encounter somebody else that can then say, wait, you guys are kind of similar. You understand? And we go, okay, yeah, like just like with race, you understand? We didn't become black until we encountered white people in mass, anyways, in mass. I mean, there was like bounce back and forth, you know what I'm saying? So you need to see, one day we're going to encounter a being that's going to point out that we are somehow two-headed, or that we're one-headed and that everybody else is two-headed. So one-headed beings will not have this single name. You understand? There'll be a single thing. So a lot of those terms don't, and they're describing something real. Like there is an Igbo culture, there are an Igbo people, there is a Yoruba culture, there is a Yoruba people, but in the time where I'm using my feet to move around, I'm not gonna. It's the odds of me encountering somebody who's not that culture is very low. So it's not an immediate thing I observe about somebody. Just like in Africa, like we don't like the first thing that comes to somebody's mind is like, okay, this is my black brother. Like we're all black. You know what I mean? So that's not a thing until somebody non-black comes in. Then all of a sudden we're black. You understand? So it's just how the world works. Yeah. So yeah, guys, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. If you guys got final questions. Home Team History just did a video on Igbo. Cool. I'll check it out. That's dope. So yeah, I like Home Team History's videos a lot. That kind of thing. Yoruba have Abara, that means power and force. Yeah, I see the same thing. Okay, guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up. It's been great. Those of you who donated, I really appreciate that. You're really helping keep the channel alive in a way that I don't think I emphasize enough. As patrons as well too. So I want to thank you guys. If you are sharing my videos with people you know, a lot of you do that. People always come to me, oh, my friend shared this, my brother shared that, you know, that kind of thing. So you guys deserve huge thanks for what you do as far as helping this channel grow. I picked a very niche topic that I'm extremely passionate about. It means a lot to me. And the fact that we're able to build a community around it has been phenomenal. That kind of thing. Jarmil add me. Okay, cool. Yeah, so being able to build a community around it is phenomenal. Now, if you are interested in what we were talking about today, if this is your thing, hurry up and get on the Patreon. We have a Eldidani group chat, very similar to this, only we're all talking, we're all sharing back and forth. It's a Zoom chat, so it's not just me running around. You know, so and that's been one of my favorite parts of the entire experience. We also have an Odinani library. So a lot of these concepts I was describing, and I have my documentation, everything like that, books, like lots of books, things like that. So if you are into independent study, if you're somebody who likes to study topics at your own pace and that kind of thing, I think we're running close to 400 some documents in there. These are books, articles, just different things. So anything I'm saying, even if I heard it from somebody or experienced it in real life, I don't try to say things until I've seen it in two places, right? So either sometimes the library is, most of the time, library is the first place I hear something, then I have to go confirm it in real life, or the other way around. So if I'm saying it, it's something that I can back up. That's why a lot of times I say I don't know. I do know, but but I can't say I know just yet. You understand? I need to see it verified by somebody else. Like even with the concept of the 7 layers of more. The Divya that told me that is a very powerful, very well-reputed Divya. He's the only person that I knew this concept, but then I started seeing it registered in these different places. I was like, oh, okay, he was 100% telling me that. So I thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. As we always say, uno gade, uno geto, nyobla no tiaka, geto no wa. Uno gamo, nyobla no char, igenwe ya, igenwe ngozi, igenwe uche, igenwe ndo, igamo nwa. Ị ga-aga ije ọma ije Chineke ije ka ije You understand? All got didn't know naked, no yeah, now for. All right, I'm signing off, guys. Thank you very much. And and those of you that stuck around when the thing shut down, thank you. I think the issue was that I used my laptop. I'll start using my phone now. I think it's better that way. There's the medicine shell. And let's hang out on Patreon. I'm gonna send the link right now. I want to see some of y'all join. Used cars, job done. Thanks for moderating and helping out, man. I really appreciate that. Say receive on. All right, I'll see you guys. Take care. I guess not.